Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Clear here with a knife video for you. This is a blade that I am super excited about. This is my Microtech D O C. This knife is one that for me has been kind of a grail knife because I saw it the first time, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and just fell in love with it. I thought this is the best thing that I've ever seen in terms of a folding knife. It's just amazing, made by a great company. Really looks cool, you know, blade grind, everything about it just really appealed to me. And so I started saving up for one. And obviously they're not cheap, so that took me a little bit of time. And by the time I had, you couldn't find them just anywhere. You know, they were hard to find, and when you did find one, it would be not what I wanted. Now, I will say I was a little bit specific because I feel like if you're going to spend that amount of money, you want to get what you want. And I wanted the blue anodized aluminum with the satin finished blade. And so I would look different places, and you know, by the way, it was a lot easier to find like the serrated blade, but I was not interested in that at all. So I'd see the odd one like on eBay or Amazon or you know, at a retailer, but it wouldn't be this one. And I would have settled, by the way, for the green anodized handle, but I didn't find that either. I really wanted the blue though. Anyway, I did find one green one with serrated, and I wasn't interested. But finally, after a number of failed attempts, no less than 3 times, I tried to buy this knife before and didn't get it. Twice on eBay and once at a retailer that indicated they had it in stock, but then it turned out they didn't. So finally, after all of that, I was able to lay my hands on this blade, and it is great. You know, it was definitely worth the wait. I'm glad I didn't compromise. I'm glad I didn't, you know, spend the money on something else. But I waited till I found just the one I wanted, and here it is. So this knife is the Microtech D O C. You can see that there. I'll zoom in just a little bit while I do the introduction. This is a knife I'm going to try to zoom in a bit so that, because it's just too awesome to stay zoomed out. Anyway, so this is the Microtech D O C. You can see D O C right there. And it is a collaboration between Anthony Marfione and Mick Strider of Strider Knives. And Anthony Marfione is, of course, of Microtech. Now, it won Collaboration of the Year, and there's no wonder. These are beautiful knives, and there are custom versions of these that are just amazing. And so, yeah, no wonder it won Collaboration of the Year. It absolutely deserved it as far as I'm concerned. Let's see if I can zoom in just a little more. Nope, that's it. Let's go ahead and talk about size and weight. Size on this is 9 inches overall. Essentially, you've got 3 3/4 inch blade and 5 1/4 inch handle. Now, those numbers are not exact because of the shape of the blade. You can see how the handle kind of comes way up here and how the blade is way down here. So you've got like almost 1 1/4 inches of overlap where the blade is all the way down here and the handle is all the way up here. So it makes it a little inconsistent measuring, but that's close enough. You need to know it's over basically 9 inches overall, and you know, basically about 3 3/4 inch blade length and about 3.5 inches of cutting edge, not quite 3.5 inches. Okay, all of that weighs 7.6 ounces, so it's a pretty heavy blade, maybe a little too heavy for some people's EDC preferences, but for 9 inches and for the size of the hunk of steel you're getting here, not a problem. You're a little over 1/2 inch thick in the handle, and this blade is crazy thick. It's a good 1/16 over 1/8 of an inch. You got a big hunk of steel there. And by the way, you should know that most of that weight does come from the blade. You can feel it when you open the knife. You can feel where most of the weight is, and it's right here. Okay, so what about that blade? Let's talk about that next. The blade is one of the things that I really liked about this. There are a number of different versions. I think there's S30V. There's, when they first came out, they were in LMAX. What else have I seen? I know there's a few, and actually on some websites you could specify the kind of blade steel you wanted. Of course, buying this in the secondary market, I was not able to do that, but that's okay because this is CPM 154. And for those of you who don't know, CPM 154 is not 154 CM. It's sort of the powdered metallurgy version of 154 CM. It's a very high-end steel. Very, very good performance. Most people, the consensus is this would be kind of one more step above S30V. So, great steel on this blade. And now let's talk about the grind. I'm going to do it on this side where there's no letter so you can kind of really see. You've got this compound grind with the flat here, and the flat has just a slightly different finish. It's all satin finish, but the flats, you can see the grind lines kind of moving this way. Just a beautiful, beautiful blade. I will point out that on the back here, there's a different finish. It almost looks like a bead blasted finish. I don't think I'm using the right name for it, but there's a different finish on the back there. If someone knows and wants to weigh in with that, that would be great in the comments section. You have this compound grind, and what that does, it's not a nightmare grind, but it's certainly reminiscent of a nightmare grind. Both of these are flat grinds, but it's a cool idea because it gives you a fairly thin cutting edge here at the first part of the blade where you're going to do kind of sort of whittling type work, but it's then by changing the grind toward the end, you keep a whole lot of material, and if you look back here, you can see how thick this blade is, even out to nearly the very tip. So it certainly is very nice and a really good way of getting a lot of blade material. Now, I will say maybe this blade shape is not perfect for everyday carry, everyday cutting tasks. It does perform fine, but you've got a lot of steel here. So when you're trying to do fine cutting tasks for the tip of the blade, you've got this huge wedge of steel you're trying to do it with, okay? It's not really designed for that. It's really meant to be a combat type of scenario where you're using this blade. And of course, that will never be my purpose for it. But nonetheless, there it is. That's what's happening with that blade. And it's very functional. When you are doing those close cutting tasks right in here, that thin edge is very much appreciated. You've got this deep finger choil here, as well as a cutout here that allows you to sharpen all the way to the end, which is great. That's a really, really cool idea. On this side, of course, is the writing side. It says DOC. The original version said death on contact. One person said, hey, what if you ever had to use this to defend your life? And in a court of law, the lawyer pulls out this knife and it says death on contact right on the blade. How's that going to look? And I can appreciate the awkwardness of that problem. Now, that's the blade. Great blade shape, sort of a drop point, almost spear point blade. Good jimping on the back. I mean, it's fairly functional. It's not the grippiest jimping ever, but it's fine. And it is stopped by these stop pins here that are on the blade, not anywhere else. So there you go. Next, after the blade, we want to talk about lockup and deployment. Now this blade deploys well, but it's not the smoothest, most amazing flipper that I own. It is on bearings, but it does take either a little bit of wrist action or a fairly hard finger push to get it out. And that's fine. I'm not going to complain at all about that, especially because of the size and weight on this blade. A heavy blade is going to be harder to flip. Okay? Lockup is amazing. It is probably the solidest lock of any knife that I own. It's just like a bank vault. And I have other knives that have a great lockup. Of course, I have cold steel knives with triad lock, but the precision on this lock is so perfect that it's solider feeling in hand than literally any other knife I own. It just is outstanding for the way that locks up and the confidence that you get from the strength of it. By the way, this is considered a subframe lock. That is, so you got this titanium insert that's screwed into the aluminum handle. And on this end here, you can see, I'm going to get my pen to kind of do a better job of pointing it out for you. You can see here that there's a stainless steel insert on the end of that lock bar that makes it so that you have steel on steel. And when you have titanium on steel, there's a higher amount of wear over time because titanium is softer. This way you get steel on steel and your lock lasts a lot longer. Plus, the way they've done this insert, if it does wear out to the point that, let's say you reach 100% lockup, you can adjust this or even replace it and kind of carry on with life that way. So this knife is designed to last forever. It is, of course, the Microtech proprietary screws, which means you're not going to have an easy time changing those out. If you ever need to, you'll have to either, you know, I think probably if you went to whatever, those Chinese websites, AliExpress.com or something, you could probably find on the secondary market tools that would fit this. If you have to buy it from Microtech, I think it's like $85 or $100 for their like little bit kit or whatever. Fairly high priced on that. Let's kind of continue down into the handle. This handle is 6061 aircraft grade aluminum, titanium backspacer, all the Microtech proprietary hardware, including in the pivot. Again, that means you're going to have an issue if you want to adjust this. Very, very comfortable and great. You know, you've got this great deep finger choil right here that literally just locks you in. Of course, you can move down the handle, and it's very comfortable in this grip as well. That's going to always be the case in a larger handled knife. Now, I will say, if you kind of see the angular square shape of this handle, it could look as if maybe it's not that comfortable. It is extremely, extremely comfortable. You have your lanyard hole here built into the backspacer, which is a really neat touch. And the grip tape on this is very, very grippy. I'd heard about grip tape, but I've never really experienced it. It's extremely abrasive. You're going to be holding on very, very tightly, and it's just enough. If you had a lot of this, it would probably take the skin right off your hands. Now, the pocket clip. This is the thing that everyone comments on. In the newer versions, it has been changed, so it's not like the Jim Skeleton named FU clip. It's much more toned down and fairly comfortable. You can notice it if you choke up on the knife so that you're in this choil. You can kind of feel it, but nothing serious. I've cut a bunch of cardboard, and I purposely did it like this so that I could see if that clip was going to drive me crazy. And the clip is not that bad. Now, in terms of performance, that is how easy it goes in and out of pocket and retains the knife, it works really well, which, by the way, is critical for a knife at this price point. Can you imagine losing this in the woods or something? You'd kind of be a little upset, I would suspect. So the clip works well for keeping the knife where you want it in your pocket. Overall, this is a great knife if you are, police, law enforcement, some branch of the military where you may need a combat knife. I would definitely class this as a hard use knife, although I have said already that I don't plan to use it really hard. This will be mostly a high-end carry knife. It'll be mostly EDC tasks for me, just because it's too pretty. Okay, and you can make fun of me in the comments if you want. That's completely fine. Now, as I have always said, I do carry and use all my knives. That's kind of a qualifier for me. If there's a knife that I'm looking at and there's no way I could use it, either it's too expensive, it's not designed well for real life use, it's purely an art knife or something, then I skip it. One of the qualifications for my collection, it has to be something I can use and carry, and certainly this is. It's been very useful for me already. By the way, one last point that I haven't made yet, this thing is stupidly sharp. I have not sharpened it yet, and it's been quite a long time. As I said, it's been about a month of pretty constant use, and it is still razor, hair shaving, really even hair whittling sharp. This is probably the sharpest knife I've ever received, and I don't know if that's the factory edge. As you know, I bought this on the secondary market, so either the guy who sent me this is a great knife sharpener, or what I suspect is that he never really used it, because other things on the knife indicate to me that it was not hard used at all. It was actually very possibly just a safe queen. Anyway, it will be no longer a safe queen. It's going to be used a lot by me, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we shall talk to you later.